Promotion offers many benefits, more than just the three named here, but three that stick with me as easy to articulate is one, we engage shoppers where they actually are, right? We need to be where they are. Sometimes they're in store. Sometimes they're in the app. Sometimes they're on the site. Sometimes they're reading an article on a blog somewhere, right? Most of the time they're watching TikTok videos, or they're on Instagram connecting with their friends, or following an influencer, right? We need to be where they are to pull them through the funnel, knowing that we're always kind of shopping, even if we're not always buying, right? Second big benefit is that omni-channel promotion, as we'll show some examples, empowers brands to do some things that you might not have been able to do as easily in store, or that can complement what we do in store because of the digital capabilities that don't require the physical activation. What I'm presented digitally doesn't necessarily have to be true physically until it's fulfilled to me. So I'll show you a couple of those examples. And then third and most important is everyone is told that we should test and learn, right? No one is really measured to allow themselves to test and learn. But what's nice is that if I can do some things that are different online as part of my omni-channel activation, it can allow me to test something smaller in scale to then get the learnings, optimize, and then scale up. And so we've actually seen in the market a lot of leading brands and categories do something online first that then they brought into the in-store world because of all the planning and you kind of cycles, resources, headcount that go into making every little seemingly small pivot in store or activation in store takes so much of our time and energy and strategy to do right. But what if we could inform that because we'd already knew that, hey, people really responded to this unique thing we could do online that with a little bit of extra work, we can bring in store as well. And again, we're going to look at some tactical examples here today in part one, but we're going to look at full activations as examples in part two as we look at planning for category growth, success, and impact. So naturally, I think we understand the broad definition of what omni-channel promotion is. We generally know why it matters, right? Then we think, well, there's so many of those tactics we talked about. Which ones work the best, right? A lot of times we're already, with the arsenal of tactics we already have, we keep leaning on the ones we know have worked unless there's something really creative and new that we need to go test. So which ones should we be doing when we do omni-channel promotion? Well, this is not a cheap answer here of it depends, because I will give you specifics, right? It depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? And what you're trying to achieve could be any one of 12 primary. I mean, you might have some other ones you want to add or split out for your category, for your channel or your trip types, right? So feel free to expand on this, but this is something at First Mover that we train on a lot, and we do workshops and really engage the geniuses that you are to do this yourself, but by giving you something to inspire you, empower you, or even to challenge the what if this category did that the way this other category does this, right? So the reality is when we think of our category management incremental growth opportunities, there is household penetration for the category and the brand, and then there is household buy rate for the category and the brand, right? And there are 6 types of penetration goals for actual household count, and then there are 6 types of goals for buy rate, inclusive of dollars per trip and then trips per household or shopper, right? So when I choose 1 or 2 of those, not all of them, I get smarter, right? I really like that acronym SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, not because we aren't smart, but because sometimes growth goals aren't as smart as we are, right? We want to drive a specific type of growth, which would then change the types of tactics that might best target or engage that specific shopper, right? That might change what product we put in the vehicle, right? Remember, we were looking at a lot of different tactics, both from an in-store traditional standpoint and from that full funnel when we layer on the digital capabilities, the retail media capabilities. Most of those are vehicles that carry a message to a specific audience if we can target them, right? Or reach them more broadly, if we kind of spray and pray, right? So with some of the less targeted capabilities. So we need to pick 1 or 2. I'll give you 3 if there was kind of hey, one of these things actually did a couple different things. There are some examples I have here. But this is really important that we choose very thoughtfully the tactics that meet the objectives that we're trying to drive. That also will make it easier to measure whether we actually achieve them. Because if I'm trying to drive basket size as an incrementality opportunity, and I use certain vehicles to do so, I can then look at whatever data I have access to, if not the retailer data, especially from a category management perspective, and actually see whether that happened. So, hey, if it didn't work, then I didn't do it right, or I could do it better, or hey, that's not the right category growth goal. Let's try something else. Let's try trips. Let's try new people, right? Lapsed people, right? So always choose one of these to really focus in on. If there's a secondary that doesn't conflict, I would argue it's hard to get new people and loyal people at the same time. Measure both equally, but you might surprise me. Maybe you've got something out there that has done both really, really well. But